Welcome to the No Bull Political Arena with your hosts, Sophia Nelson, Bill O'Reilly, Brian Mistro, and TJ McCormick. It's real voices, raw politics, and no bullshit. Hello, everybody, and this is Brian Mistro. Thank you for joining us again. Today is Thursday Thoughts. Yes, we run it at the same time that we do the political arena, but Thursday Thoughts, for those that haven't watched it before, what we do is we try to take a subject and talk about it as kind of a little bit of a group. We try to keep it apolitical. I don't know if we're going to be able to do that again today. So we have a special guest with us here, and Rina Shah, thank you for joining us for today's Thursday Thoughts. And before we get started, if you don't mind, just kind of give everybody just a little bit of your background and kind of who you are, because this is your first time on, and we're glad to have you.
Hey, I'm happy to be with you both. I mean, I've just so enjoyed engaging with you online and Sophia offline. We've known each other a while now and we've been in the same sandbox. So I would say, look, the long and short on me is that I made my career in Republican politics and blew it up. I blew it up actually 10 years ago this month. This is my 10-year anniversary of becoming the first ever elected delegate to the RNC to buck Donald Trump
Mm,
before he even became the official nominee. And I did it
wow.
on Fox News, of all the places to do it. But prior to that, I'd served two Republican members of the House. And in these 10 years, I've lived to tell the tale. I feel like I've not only just survived, I've thrived. I have a family now. I've been married. I have three little ones that I'm very happy to say that I'm a working mom, but I'm not getting it right every day of the week, but I'm trying. And so I'm a multi-hyphenate. And I've been blessed in these 10 years also since I did what I did as a former Republican strategist. I've had to find new ways to kind of be a person around DC. And being a person around DC to me has great responsibility. So I love breaking down the complexities of Capitol Hill for people who don't understand them, for really any audience. I've been lucky to be able to do that on traditional TV. And I like being online. But I will say it's a very small part of what I do. I don't monetize that in any way. But also, I now run a geopolitical risk advisory firm, and that's been really special for me because I feel like that's been a pleasure to be able to take on that work at a time where the world is more connected than ever. So went from partisan politics to the campaign trail to being politically homeless, and I'm here with you today. So thank you.
It's great having you on. Everybody knows Rena. I will just tell you from my perspective, and most people know this, but it was because of Donald Trump that I got into politics. I was perfectly happy on my sailboat somewhere else. So yeah, he actually drove me into politics, and I was never Trump since 2015. But and I've never looked back, by the way, either.
That's
So
right.
today, let's talk about, if we can, for our Thursday thoughts. I'd like to talk about, at least start off, in corruption. And again, I want to reemphasize again that in Thursday thoughts, we try to keep it apolitical. It's going to be very difficult, but in the spirit of keeping it apolitical, I want to share the first slide and talk about that very briefly because it's with Nancy Pelosi. So let me go ahead and read this for those that are listening and or may not want to watch or see the slide. It says, quote, and this is from Yahoo Finance. It says Nancy Pelosi posted up a staggering 16,930% return on investment, beat the markets by 581%. Here are her five biggest wins. I don't I don't particularly care what her biggest wins are. It's irrelevant. But she sat on the Appropriations Committee for a good chunk of her career. And she's been in the forefront of knowing things that are going to happen before the rest of us happen. I'm going to start there with that one. And I got to tell you, Sophia, that's winning the lottery kind of lucky, or there's something else going on. It's how did that strike you? Because that was the first time I'd ever known had seen it was that bad.
I have a lot of thoughts, and good evening to everybody watching. And Rena, it's so awesome to have you with us, and I hope you become a regular because I think your voice is important, and I think we need more center, right, center, left, normal, moderate people who are just normal people and don't want to fight and don't want to fuss and actually want to see government work. Brian, I've worked on the Hill 3 times in my life. I was a page when I was in high school, then I was a Senate intern in U.S. Senate when I was in college, and then when I graduated law school and become an attorney, worked on government reform and oversight as a counsel, as a investigative counsel for the Republicans. And I can tell you that the
Mm,
Capitol Hill I worked on both in all those iterations of my life as a young person is very different from the one we see today.
mm,
I think in the
Right.
spirit of nonpartisanship and just being, as you know, my last book is about saving democracy and what the path forward is, redefining freedom for a new generation of Americans and renewing that purpose. I think it is really important to young people watching that I don't want you to be cynical about what you see. It is bad, it is corrupt, it is immoral. And the reason it has become so, Brian, is I've used this statistic many times. The last election for President Donald Trump got 77 million votes. Kamala Harris got 75 million votes, 74, 75 million votes. And 89 million eligible Americans didn't vote at all.
yeah,
That's a
That's the
problem.
story. Yeah.
That's the
that
story
is.
right there. And that's where you got to pause. And the reason that Tom King cannot show up for work for 5 months and then say he was depressed, but be trading stocks and not be accountable, or the
Mitch
reason Mitch
McConnell.
McConnell can be
I
in
was
the
gonna say, or Mitch
hospital and
McConnell.
not have to respond to the governor of his state's request, or Nancy Pelosi can have this magical stuff, and Donald Trump has made $2+ billion since he's been in office again since 2025, and I can go on and on and on. The stock trades, the things that members of Congress are doing to enrich themselves right out in the open
Mm-hmm.
is because we are disengaged. We the people have stepped back, decided this doesn't affect us, we don't care, and this is the result.
Yeah, I'm all with you. So since you brought up Donald Trump, I'd like to share the next slide. Now, again, I'm going to read a little bit of it so that the folks that are just listening, you can just follow along. Now, I'm going to say first of all, this is from Steve Ratner. I actually like Steve Ratner. I think that he does a really good
Good
job.
morning, Joe. He's good.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I do like him. He is partisan. He is a Democrat. I believe he was in Obama's
But he's
administration.
an economist.
Yeah, and he presents stuff with facts and numbers. So let's go to facts and numbers for a second. Quote, I previously reported that the growth rate and composition of Trump's wealth gains in office were unprecedented in recent history.
Mhm.
Upon request, here's the data on the relative size of Trump's presidential windfall. The extent of his self enrichment is even more striking. If you can't see that chart right now, what I'm showing you for those that are just listening is you're going to see the three presidents before him, Obama and Bush and so forth, and Biden. And then you're going to see this big red bar over the side. And that big red bar over the side is $3.8 trillion. That's how much he's made in the first 2 years of his second term. You don't see any red bars on the other presidents? That's a little bit odd, or is it? Because, in my opinion, we've got one of the most corrupt presidents in history. There's just not an analogy to anybody else that's been close in 250 years.
Yeah.
Does that shock you, Rena? I mean, you've been in politics for years and years. You've
Yeah.
seen you've
Two
seen both
decades.
sides of it. You are a Republican, though
Years.
you did come out against
Yeah.
Trump. Does that number shock you?
Well, I will say I'm not sure if I'm really a Republican anymore. I've been grappling with that question actually a little bit. It's been 10 years of being asked that question, saying yes.
Mm,
And it's not about Trump to me. It's about what does the Republican Party stand for in this
mm,
era? I used to think it stood for financial, like real financial conservatism, right? Like
right.
let's get down to what it should be about, the economics. My parents came over to this country because the opportunity in this country. Millions of people do that every year. Capitalism gets dinged every day of the week. Oh, it's horrible. There are winners and losers in capitalism. I came up through young conservative, sort of, I would say structures like my alternative publication on campus when I was in college. I
Mm,
ended up writing for it ultimately. I was acquainted with the Dinesh D'Souza's, Michelle Malkin's, and Coulter's. I was the wee one when those
mm,
people were putting big ideas out there, right? And so I started to feel like, okay, the social stuff, like, yeah, but the financial, the economic, the fiscal, whatever you call it, I
yeah.
was with them on that because I think that is what I was told that Republicans rein in the spending. They will not let Big Brother get out of control, and here we sit. So I don't know that I'm a Republican. I think I'm center right. I think I am politically homeless, as I've been for a decade now, in many ways. But I also think the vast majority of Americans are independently minded, right?
Yeah,
We're seeing these parties trick us over and over. And so I will say, you're right to put up the Pelosi slide up first. I think that 16,930% that return, it's eye-popping. It
yeah,
needs to be said over and over again. I mean, that's the kind of trading performance that makes people raise an eyebrow no matter who's doing it. So I'm talking fair game here, but it doesn't come close to what's happening on the other side of the ledger right now, right? So Pelosi and Trump, these guys, 250 years of American history, and we never have seen a sitting president and his sons monetize the office at this
that's
scale.
right.
The crypto stuff as well is really big, but you put up the Ratner slide, and I do want to get to that because it's not old-fashioned conflict of interest here. This is a parallel family enterprise that is simultaneously pitching speculative tokens to the public. They're taking stakes in defense contractors and then watching the government,
That's right.
those son's father runs, write the checks and set the policy.
Can I
So
be the nerd
yeah,
for a moment, though, and remind you of this thing called the Emoluments Clause in the
I
Constitution?
knew that
It's
was
there
coming
for
up.
a
And I knew you were
reason
going to say that, Sophia. I knew you were going
because
to say
it
it.
matters. What
sure does.
she's saying is spot on. And every other president that I'm aware of, and I'm pretty good at this, has had to put their money in, if they were wealthy, a blind
Hmm.
trust
Right.
or have somebody else manage those funds, the Roosevelts, the Kennedys, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And in this instance, not only has that not been done, oh, I'm going to let my sons run it. Oh, yeah, okay. And then there's Jared and Ivanka. But what's really offensive to me about the defense contracts that the Trump sons are getting, they're sole sourcing contracts. So I guess GSA doesn't exist anymore, Rena. I don't know where it went because they just sole
I know.
source, whether it's the reflecting pool, whether it's the ballroom, whether it's the
Yes.
Kennedy Center, whatever it is, their people are getting these contracts and they're sole sourcing them to the tunes of hundreds of
Oh
millions
yeah.
and billions of dollars. It's unbelievable.
Let me
Sophia,
share.
I
Let
mean,
me.
yeah.
Oh, go ahead. I was going to let you
Please,
go.
no, I was just gonna say, as a lawyer, you know this, right? But remember a decade ago when he stepped up and said, I'm not gonna divest. Trump just was defiant, and the Republican Party just accepted that. I thought that was the first act that told us what these people were willing to do. They were willing to follow this man off a cliff. They were like lemmings, right? And I think we can say whatever we want about Pelosi. Her returns are impressive, but the Trump family operation, it's industrial.
Hmm.
And I think the data we saw from Steve Ratner, it's right because the growth rate and the composition of the wealth gain while in office is just completely unprecedented in recent history. And then the self-enrichment is even more striking when you stack the crypto windfall next to the defense pipeline. That's what people
And
need
then
to
consider
realize.
today, which I know we're going to get into, Brian, so I don't want to mess with your thunder on Blanche. So lead away.
Well, I want to add one thing. So if you're watching this, one of the ones that absolutely blew me away, and listen, I mean, how many Comer committee meetings have we had about Hunter Biden painting pictures and selling them for tens of
Yeah.
thousands of dollars because his dad was president, right? I mean, it was Inspector Clouseau stuff every day. I tuned it out after the last couple of years, but here's where I want to go with this. So there was and I'm going to put up the slide here real quick. So there was a company called Vulcan Elements, and this particular organization was set up to be a counterbalance to China managing and having major control over rare earths. That's a real thing. So what do you know? The Trump kids, I think it was Don Jr. specifically. I'm not sure if the other kid was. So they go on the board for this thing, and then shortly thereafter, the White House, Peter Navarro picks up the telephone and tells them, "You've got the contract. We're not going to talk to anybody else. And by the way, here's hundreds of millions of dollars to get you going as a loan from the Pentagon." Now,
Mhm.
that's a lot
Yeah.
more to me than somebody making paintings and selling them to the Japanese or something. Okay, so the level of unprecedented that we're going through right now is just we've never seen anything like this. It's just and it's so much, Sophia. It's It's the Bibles. It's the guitars, for God's sakes. It's the shoes, the meme coins, as Rena was saying.
But what's
I mean,
more distressing than that is that we allow it, that it is going on, not hidden, not something we're unaware of and we're going to find out about 20 years from now. It is being done in the broad light of day,
Right.
mm-hmm.
brazenly done so. He's falling asleep in the Oval Office. He's not competent. He can't string two sentences together. If you thought he was bad in the first term, he's hideous in the second term. The belligerence, the going after the political enemies, whether it's Comey or whether it's the Letitia James or the girl down in Georgia that was the elections coordinator lady, was the one, Bonnie Willis. The
Yeah,
bottom
Mills.
line is, if you look at this, you sit and you kind of, it makes you snap back and go, is this America? Like this is happening here? But then people just shrug and go, oh, that's Donald Trump. And to me, that's the real corruption in this, that we, the people, have decided, and definitely the Republican Party's decided they have no spine, no backbone.
Mm-hmm.
They have nothing to say about anything he does. Now, again, I'm not going to steal your thunder here because you want to talk about Blanche, but I think it's a good segue into what's happening on Capitol Hill right now and the president's response.
Well, so since you brought that up, let's talk about Blanche. I'll go ahead and share another slide on that for the folks that don't know. I'm going to read it. I'm not going to do my best Donald Trump because we'll all get sick. But let me go ahead and read what he wrote today. And I'm going to give everybody a little bit of a background so that you understand the true background, because I'm going to make the case that this is actually the most corrupt thing that has happened yet. So the post is from Donald Trump. I took it off of his social media site. God love me for going on that thing and taking one for the team. But it says Todd Blanche is a star. Everyone knows it. He has the potential to go down as one of the greatest attorney generals of all time. Blah blah blah. However, John Cornyn of Texas and Tom Tillis of North Carolina, both of whom I refuse to endorse, and whose political careers have been ended by my action, are refusing to vote for this great nominee who will remain in any event, by the way, let's underscore this, as acting Attorney General. Remember, both Cornyn and Tillis voted for Merrick Garland, blah, blah, blah. We don't need to go into the rest of that. But here's where I want to come back to this for people that have not been paying attention to what's happened. So let me give just a minute of history. When Donald Trump was president in Donald Trump 1.0, Donald Trump controlled the IRS. During that time, an individual at the IRS took Donald Trump's tax returns and publicized them without his permission. And of course, the tax returns were filled with lies. Big surprise, right? From Donald Trump lies. Joe Biden wins the next election. Joe Biden takes that individual, prosecutes him, and throws him in jail for 5 years, which he is still sitting in today. As soon as Donald Trump becomes president again in Trump 2.0, Donald Trump sues the IRS, which Donald Trump controls, for $10 billion. Now, here's where it gets interesting.
That's with a B, folks. He said billion, not
B
million.
with a B, billion. And so Donald Trump
Oof.
goes in front of a federal judge, or let me rephrase that. The DOJ goes in front of a federal judge, and the federal judge says, I don't think you can do this. You can't sue yourself. You're both the plaintiff and the defendant.
Mhm.
I want to see a write up and understanding how you can even do this, how it's even legal, and why I don't throw this thing out. 2 or 3 days before those are due, and those briefs are due, Donald Trump via Blanche instead settles with Donald Trump for $1.776 billion before the judge can throw it out. And here's the biggest part of it. He gets a get out of jail free for anything he has done with the IRS, his kids have done for the IRS, his companies have done with the IRS. They did all that. They settled it out from under it. Now, here's the context for
Can't
today.
even get an audit. Don't forget to tell him that.
That's right. He cannot be audited ever for any of that. It's a free card. So here's where it gets interesting. So the two senators from that slide I just read are both Republicans, and they said, "Listen, we will confirm Blanche, but here's what we want. We want a guarantee, a written guarantee from you that Todd Blanche will not do the 1.776 billion slush fund for you, and number two, the IRS thing is off the table." Well, so it turns out that Blanche worked out some kind of a deal Cornyn said, I thought we had a deal. Till said, I thought we had a deal. Donald Trump yanked it right beforehand. So let me ask you, Rena, why would he do that unless his whole goal out of this was to make sure he could get that slush fund, or more importantly, keep his family ties out of the IRS?
It's always about the Trump family business, right? And that is his legacy. He understands that his name has become synonymous with success in American business life to many folks, right? Not
Mm-hmm.
us, but because I mean, I for one knew, I talked to my brother about this years ago, and he goes, "You know how that man got rich, right? He got rich off of licensing deals." And then meanwhile, over the years I've met numerous people from the New York tri-state area that have not been paid by Trump whenever they've done provided goods and services
He
to some of
knows
his
big
properties.
time. Yeah.
Yeah, so we all know those things. I think the word of the day is corruption. And I,
It
I think
is.
there was something you said, Sophia, earlier that just really set off a light bulb in my head. And it was about this all happening in broad daylight. And I think about the conversations I've had with at least one of my family members who's an immigrant from India. And that person said to me, well, Trump does it out in the open. Everybody else did it behind closed doors. So there are millions among us that believe that Biden, Obama, Clinton, the Bushes, one and two, all of them did this too. And to that, I have to say, absolutely not. So that is our challenge. That is our call to action for people listening here. This is not just a tribal situation where we're all just agreeing with
Yeah,
each other. We all need to push back on this. And we have to say, no president, again, 250 years, no president has run a family franchise that prints money off of both, again,
100%.
speculative crypto and taxpayer-backed defense deals while still holding the pen on
100%.
policy. It
Can
just
we go
has
back to
not happened.
corruption though? Because I think we
Yeah,
should focus there. And corruption has tentacles to it, right?
sure.
There's a residue. And that is that when you're corrupt, corrupt people are also liars. It goes down off the cliff. There are no ethics. There are no standards. There is no bottom. There is no ceiling. And so what has happened in our political ecosphere, in our media, which is why you have to have shows like the No Bull Arena and other podcasts that are truly not partisan. They're just calling balls and strikes based on facts. And the corruption that we saw in the US Senate yesterday wasn't about finances. It was about smearing the reputation of a good and honorable and decent man who is 85 years old, has been married to the same woman his whole adult life, who's got children, who's never been a felon, who's never been an adjudicated rapist, who's never paid people off for sleeping with porn stars. And we take a guy like that and we decimate him in public. And the
Mm-hmm.
piece of, piece of work that is doing everything we've been talking about, that guy gets depicted in memes as Jesus and he's healing the sick. We're in deep shit here, folks. If you're not paying attention and you haven't figured out yet, this is authoritarian 101. You're not paying attention. And that's what I want us to focus on. Corruption is more than just, I made $2 billion. Corruption corrodes the system of the guardrails of our Constitution. It completely dismisses what is right and what is wrong. It doesn't give a damn about an emoluments clause or anything else. It does what it wants to do. And it
Mm-hmm.
becomes a beast. You Star Wars fans out there, you remember Jabba the Hutt? You remember him? He's sitting there with his loofah, he's smoking and he's coarse and he's fat and he's just eating stuff and he's nasty. That's the United States of America right now. That's the image I want you to think of because that's the way the rest of the world sees us right now.
Yeah,
Rant over.
Yeah,
Just saying.
yeah.
and China is now viewed more favorably than the United States for a
Oh
first.
gosh.
So
At least
Sophia,
they conduct their leader conducts himself with some sense of decency, and that's a hell of a thing to say.
yeah, right.
I don't know
So
about
so
that, but
Sophia, let me ask you because you're a lawyer and a constitutional lawyer at that.
yeah.
Um, the founders put things in place to keep what's happening right now, hopefully from happening. What are the things that we can do, both
Here's
as
the
a
thing.
country or the federal government? What can we do to stop this?
You remember when we did the show on my book, Redefining Freedom, and I opened with this because the guardrails have failed. And the reason they have failed for the first time ever, not during the Civil War, not during World Wars, not during Jim Crow, not during, you could go back to one of our, or any of our worst moments as a country, and the guardrails held. You know why?
Mhm.
Because you got to go to Watergate. And you got to go to Howard Baker and Bob Dole and George Herbert Walker Bush walking down to the White House and telling Nixon, let me tell you something, buddy. We run the Senate and we run the House, but we will impeach your ass and we will remove you and we will take you out for what you did if you don't resign. And he resigned because his party did what the founding fathers envisioned they would do. The reason that we have an impeachment clause and a removal clause for high crimes and misdemeanors, the language of the 18th century, is because the founding fathers knew there would be a Donald Trump one day. They knew it.
Yeah.
What they banked on, however, was that the Article 1 branch, which is the Congress, and the Article 3 branch, which is the courts, would hold the feet to the fire of that rogue executive, the Article 2 branch, and either impeach, remove, use the 25th Amendment, whatever they had to do, okay? They didn't know about the 25th Amendment yet, but they made James Madison argued for an amendment process, which was brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
My point is this. The reason we're in this trouble right now, and Congressman Massey said it best. Why the hell are we running around talking about elections being rigged when we have the whole control of the House, the Senate, the White House, and the Supreme
And
Court?
yeah,
It's like
yeah,
people aren't even
yeah.
paying attention to the fact that the Republicans have won all the elections, but yet they've convinced tens of millions of our fellow Americans that elections are being stolen from them somehow. I mean, sit with that for a moment. And think about the fact, to the answer to your question, is the reason this is happening, Brian, and here's the bad news. In our system, there's nothing we can do. We can only vote. And we get to vote this November, assuming that the elections go forward in a way that is not with
Which
ICE
is not a
people
given.
threatening
Which is not
voters.
a given.
Right, we don't know. He's going to do something. Elon Musk just said he's going to put another 150 million in the midterms.
It's 250.
250, I'm sorry, and that he is going to be helpful again. His words about, yeah, don't worry, I'm on it. They won't lose the midterms. That makes me nervous. And so I think that in our system, the problem is it's an honor system. And it has worked really well from Washington to Joe Biden
Yeah.
or from Washington to Obama. But the two times you've had Donald Trump, it is completely broken apart because the Republicans, who either had control of the House, the Senate, or both, or whatever, let him run wild. And they've
Mm-hmm.
refused to check him. What Tillis and Cornyn are doing now is cowardly. They still want to talk about a deal and, well, we want to see it in writing. Okay, great. But you know that this man, Blanche, is not only not qualified because he was Trump's personal attorney.
That's
That
right.
should be disqualifying right there.
Yeah.
And they refuse to just vote Susan Collins. She's always concerned, but never doing the right thing. You know, Lisa Murkowski will sell her ass as long as it benefits Alaska, not the United States of America. And I'm appalled. And that's why this is holding, Brian, because there's no way for us to rein him in our system. If we had a British parliamentary system, we'd call for another election and we'd get him out of there. We can't do that in this country. It doesn't work that way.
So we've only got a couple of minutes left. I want to throw one thing out to you, Rena, especially since you're kind of new on the show, and this is to back up kind of what Sophia said. The removal process, because he does control the DOJ, is for an impeachment first, right? Because the DOJ cannot prosecute him as long as he's president. So my question to you, Rena, was number one, were you surprised that after January 6th that he was not impeached for what he did? And number two, as the follow-up
He
to
was
that,
impeached. He wasn't
yeah,
removed.
I'm sorry, he was
Yeah.
impeached. It was not
Not
found. He was
indicted.
not found guilty in the Senate. I'm sorry, I meant to correct that. But number two, more concerning, after that happened, did it not shock you that this country reelected that man after January 6th?
Yeah. Oh, so two things. Yeah, I'm definitely I was so disturbed that he wasn't indicted in the Senate and we were watching every vote. But this is the thing. I'll keep it short in saying that I think a number of us who are millennials and Gen Zers, we start to look at what's gone wrong, why we don't have better leaders, why we have such cowards at the federal level who won't do the right thing, right? Which is to take that tough vote and potentially lose your own seat.
Yeah.
And it's because we have the influence of big money in politics. And that is something that is becoming
Hmm.
overwhelmingly accepted across the political spectrum is that we need to overturn Citizens United,
Agreed.
period. in
Yeah.
order to get better leaders. We can't get them. Now, I take a little bit of an alternate view from Sophia in that, like, I actually genuinely believe that we still have the guardrails. They're weakened hugely. Don't get me wrong. I think the courts are
Mm,
where I tell people to look and have faith still. I understand completely in that we both are creatures of Congress, right? Having made our careers there. Obviously, you are a lawyer who studied the Constitution and knows it so well. But I do still believe in the courts. When I tell people if you've lost faith, like look at decisions that have come from our judiciary. And that is where I see is the only place we can rein him in.
mm,
But back to J6, there are deniers of that day. As we know, time goes on from that day. People forget the events. I had a bird's eye view to the whole thing for many hours. Could not leave the building I was in because I feared the Proud Boys, and the color of my skin is brown.
mm-hmm,
And I was with somebody who was black that day, and with a lot of people who were also who were there, but very scared. But I think the black guy and the brown gal were very, very nervous about the Proud Boys,
mm. Yeah, that's a good
less
point.
about the riot that we were watching on the West Front and more about the Proud Boys that felt emboldened in the streets. So I am very shocked by the fact that Trump was not indicted in that impeachment after January 6th. What I'm not shocked by is that he was reelected because we have a duopoly.
Oh,
And people said, I think silently, there were a number of people that just went to the ballot box and just said, might as well give back a chance to the devil I know. What's the worst that can happen? Well, now we've seen the worst that can happen. He's entered us into an endless war. It seems end of February, we thought it was going to be a few weeks. I thought it was going to be a few days. I thought these are just some strikes. They won't be sustained. Point is, he's lied flat out to so many people, and
yeah.
so many people felt they have felt lied to, and on the economic front as well, because a lot of people just voted for this guy to say, can the price of daily commodities come down? Maybe this guy can do something
Mm,
versus the administration currently in power, which was the Biden administration.
yeah.
So because we are a duopoly, I was not shocked that there was a silent Trump voter and that he came back to power because we just don't have that strength. We call ourselves a multi-party system, but we're not. And then the final point I want to make, thirdly, I think is really important about the AG, the Attorney General. Pam Bondi, shoulda, coulda, woulda. But Pam Bondi lost herself somewhere along the way. And I think, Sophia, she even had Jeb Bush's love at some point back then.
That performance she did that time in the Senate was disgraceful. And then what did he do to her? He threw her under the bus like he
Mm-hmm.
does
That's right.
everybody.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
right. So I always felt the attorney general was somebody that worked for us, was our person, and now we've just seen he or she will not be, because Trump is continues to treat his AG appointee, even if they're acting like they're an attorney for him personally instead of for the United States.
yeah,
And so what he's doing in this moment, by temporarily pulling the nomination, leaving Blanche as acting, and then saying he's going to resubmit the name after the two senators, Cornyn and Tillis, are gone in January. I think that's not just hardball. That's a president treating the Justice Department leadership and the
yes, yeah,
confirmation process as leverage in a personal and political score settling exercise. And when
yeah,
you put it next to all the other stuff he's doing with crypto and defense and earning from there, and his sons are earning from there, it really completes the picture. The office is being used as both the profit center and the political weapon at the same time. And that combination, my friends, is brand new, and it should concern anyone listening and anyone who cares about the durability of our institutions, regardless of party.
yep. 100%. I know
Nailed
we're
it.
out of time here, everybody. This has been a heck of a fun discussion. I just want to say real quickly, if you're watching this, I don't know if you're watching on X or YouTube or Twitch or whatever platform you're watching it from, please press like. If you follow us on X, follow along. If you go to YouTube and subscribe to the channel, you'll get Thursday Thoughts. You're going to get multiple other programs. We even do an AI show. We do a show that's effectively a non-political show a couple of times a week. We do a lot of different things, and we're growing. We're getting folks like wonderful guests like Rena on, and give us your thoughts. Ask a question. I'll throw it out to Rena. I'll throw it out to Sophia. We'll talk about it on air, and we'll have some fun with it. Thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight. We really appreciate it. Thank you, Rena. It was an absolute pleasure having you on.
Thank
Sophia, it
you.
always is, my friend. Thanks, everybody, and we will see you next time. Thank you.
Bye.
The No Bull Political Arena is on all major social media platforms. Make sure to give us and your host a follow.
Hey everybody, this is Sophia Nelson. Follow me at I am Sophia Nelson on every one of my social media platforms.
I'm Bill O'Reilly, and you can reach me at Twitter at WFBOR. Hey, this is TJ. Follow me on X or Twitter at TJ McCormack.
This is Brian Mistro, and you can follow me on X at Brian_Mistro or follow along on Facebook at Brian.Mistro.
A Noble Media Group member.